Almost everyone that I know of is writing a book or wants to write a book or fantasize about writing a book. And one of the interesting things about natural healing is there's great potential in educational materials that you create. And because of the new technologies, you really don't have to go to a publisher and get your book published. A lot of people have fantasies that going to a publisher is the great future for them economically in natural healing, but it doesn't really work that way. I've had 8 books published, 6 of them with large mainstream publishers. And what happens very often is your book gets published, it gets put on the shelf, and either it sells or it doesn't, and then goes out of print. So the key is, if you have a vision or a passion for something or an idea that you want to share, you can produce that and then sell it as educational material. A lot of the future in education now, of course, is through the internet. People produce pamphlets, they produce video, audio, educational materials, and really they save the cost that it used to take to produce these. If you really have a passion for something, you might want to start looking on the web for different websites and what's being done with people in those particular areas of specialty, and then develop a website of your own. One of the most wonderful ways of doing it, really simply, is producing a web newsletter. People give you their email addresses and you send them a newsletter, which you also have on your website. And you can talk about your pamphlets or things that you have available for purchase in that specialized area, both in your newsletter in a subtle way, and also have them on your website. That way you can teach, develop products, write, and even consult, all in a simple way using technology. A lot of consulting gets done by telephone. There are many people who do herbal consulting, nutritional consulting, they do readings, and have people do coaching by calling up and charging a fee. For instance, there are some professional coaches who practice not as psychotherapists but as advice givers for problem solving, and they're very useful both in terms of health and also in terms of business and personal development. And these people will charge something like $300 per month, and what they will do is they will charge per half an hour of coaching, where they have a very specific technique where they dispense information that a client can use in a very specific way. There are organizations of coaches, the International Coaching Federation, and this is another way of using advice, using technology, of course the telephone being that technology. Now that you've learned about the different ways that people can get educated in natural healing, and the different ways that people can make a living in natural healing, what I'd like to do is give you a case history of someone named Sally. Sally is an extremely successful person in the area of natural healing. She's very respected, and she actually makes a living in all the different areas we've already discussed, which is why she makes such a wonderful example. She began doing acupressure and polarity and Reiki sessions back in the late 1960s and early 70s. She did some free speeches at a vegetarian hotel in the Catskill Mountains, various health fairs when she was early in her 20s. This helped her build a slight clientele, and she went to people's homes charging $25 to $30 an hour, even though she was traveling sometimes 40 minutes to an hour to get to the client. As time went by, she built a clientele, raised her fees for home visits, and also got a lovely office to work out of through somebody who liked her work and wanted to support her in expanding her practice. Eventually, she was carrying 20 to 30 clients a week, doing nutrition counseling, herbs, homeopathy, meditation and visualization, and traditional massage. Many of her clients had an interest in learning some of the techniques that she was offering, and so she began teaching weekend seminars. She also began to mail out a newsletter on 8.5 by 11 paper, which she typed and sent to potential students as well as to her present students. In this way, students that came to her classes were interested in becoming clients, and clients became students, as well as referring many other people to her. Eventually, she began to sell some products both to her clients and in her workshops. These included small reflexology cards, 22-page to 30-page booklets that she printed and photocopied and sold for $10 for each booklet, and some simple meditation tapes that she purchased. Eventually, she produced her own tapes, began to have books published through mainstream publishers, and began to get some speaking engagements where she was paid. As time went by, she developed larger and larger audiences, and she began to sell large amounts of products at the back of the room, including tapes, video and audio, pamphlets and booklets, handouts, and other educational material. When the internet became popular, and she had already been in practice 15 to 20 years, she developed a web page and began to offer all of these educational products through her web page. She became a more and more polished professional speaker and eventually joined the professional organization of speakers, the National Speakers Association. Eventually, she was earning between $1,500 and $3,000 for a 2-hour speech and was traveling around the country 26 weekends of the year doing weekend seminars that drew as much as 30 and 40 people at $300 to $400 per person. She also organized retreats to Bali, to sacred spaces in Egypt, and developed a full 155-hour certification training program, which became nationally recognized through Reiki associations and for continuing education credits through the American Massage and Therapy Association and the National Certification Board. Eventually, she was called upon because of press releases that she sent on a regular basis to major media as a representative of alternative medicine and holistic health on network television, and was interviewed many, many times on Good Morning America, Good Day New York, and other shows that people watched in the millions.